All right, I'm going to stop it, but I just needed to put.
Joining us. I'll start over again.
Thank you.
Welcome and thank you for joining us this evening. On behalf of the Reading League New Hampshire, we are thrilled to have here with us to present tonight one of our very own board members, our co-president actually, and personal friend, Heidi Zollman. But first, I'd like to take a moment to introduce the Reading League New Hampshire board members. Carol Tolman and Heidi Zollman, co-presidents. Teresa Starkey and Bonnie Bell, co-vice presidents. Holly Sturgill, treasurer. Sherry McManus, secretary, and other board members include Liz Cannon, Danielle Cullinane, Diane Meelan, Kristen Waddell, and myself, Debbie Jubril. We are fortunate to have Heidi joining us tonight. Heidi is pursuing her doctoral at Bay Path University with her dissertation focus on bringing evidence-based practices to educators. Throughout her career, Heidi has developed a robust background in literacy through various roles, including elementary classroom teacher, reading and writing specialist, reading first coach, curriculum administrator, and adjunct faculty in higher education. Her extensive experience is further complemented by certifications as a LETRS, DIBELS, and SRSD trainer. Heidi's passion for supporting literacy in all learners is evident in her dedicated work in raising awareness for dyslexia and collaborative efforts with schools to improve literacy outcomes for all students. In addition to her professional roles, Heidi serves as the co-president to Reading League New Hampshire, as I mentioned earlier, and conference chair to the Northern New England branch of IDA. Outside of her professional commitments, she enjoys spending quality time with her family, relaxing at the lake, and indulging in her love of reading in her spare time. Without further ado, welcome Heidi.
Hi, everyone. It is so amazing to see so many people here tonight. I think I heard we had 400 people registered, which means all of those people will also get the recording. So I am so excited to see you here tonight. And I am just honored to be talking about evidence-based writing practices using ThinkSRSD. So what is ThinkSRSD? If you have ever heard of ThinkSRSD or SRSD, if you know where your annotate tools are, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, write it in the chat. Let me know if you know of ThinkSRSD. So let's just take a brief moment and let's see some of those thumbs up. Feel free to find your animate tools. If you know where the hearts are, anything like that. Yep, I'm seeing people write hearts. So lots of people have heard of SRSD. So I am a letters trainer and I've been training in letters. I was trained from Dr. Carol Tolman. Let's see, way back in probably 2008 in the first edition. And as I dug into evidence-based writing, I wanted to dig more into what works because honestly, when I was in college, I never learned how to teach writing to my students. I don't know if any of you have felt that way, but we were taught the writing process. We were taught to release kids, let them write. Everything is beautiful and accepted. And I never knew how to teach writing. And so I wanted to know. So I attended a session with Dr. Stephen Graham and Karen Harris, and I learned about SRSD, and I wanted to learn more. So I went to the Reading Institute in Massachusetts, and I met Dr. Leslie Laud. And she was so passionate. We took a long walk that day. We talked all about the science of reading. We talked about letters, and we talked about ThinkSRSD. We became friends, and I had her come into my district in Rochester, New Hampshire, and train all of our K-12 teachers in ThinkSRSD. So imagine that, all K-12. So we know that ThinkSRSD is the true science of writing. The magnitude of research that backs it is amazing, and I'm going to dig into that tonight. So ThinkSRSD is the true science of writing. ThinkSRSD actually has been working with over 1,000 teachers to really put these evidence-based practices into the schools, working with teachers. So, we have research, but then we try to do these things in our classroom. And as educators, we think, this isn't going to work. How is this going to work? However, with ThinkSRSD, teachers are involved in kind of augmenting this approach. And then research is done again and again and again, and we see outcomes. So really, teachers are involved in this research. It is quite amazing. So let's talk about writing in our nation. We want to begin by validating many of your experiences. Like mine, I was not taught how to teach writing. Teachers are deeply frustrated because they have not been adequately prepared to teach writing. If you can, give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. Were you adequately prepared to teach writing? Think back to your college experience. Again, I was not. Even after getting my master's degree, before I was letters trained, I really didn't know how to teach students how to read, especially the students who are struggling. So our teachers still are not adequately prepared to teach writing. And you're not alone. We know in our nation, we know that only 24% of our students are writing proficiently. So that means how many students are actually not okay, are not able to write. That's a big percentage, right? About 75, 76% cannot write proficiently. So we definitely have a problem. So let's think about why. What is the roadblock? Why is this that our students struggle with writing? I have 4 children of my own. They're all grown, and they hated writing in school. I know that they would come home and say, I don't know how to write. I keep having teachers hover over me and add more details. I don't even know what they're talking about. And why is that? It is because we have not been prepared. We have not had the evidence to tell us how to teach writing and what works. But here's the thing, we have roadblocks, but there is good news. We actually know what to do. We know what works now, and even better, it is simple. It's easy to learn and easy to use, I promise you. So let's think about research. So I am going to go into research just a little bit here. So we have accumulated evidence, and ThinkSRSD has put this together into a simplified and comprehensive framework for teaching writing. It helps students to become independent writers, to write better, and to find it easier to do. So at ThinkSRSD, this team specializes in taking the evidence and bringing it into classrooms. So again, give me a thumbs up if you have used this approach or heard of it. It is all over the nation right now, and it's very exciting work. So when we say SRSD, ThinkSRSD works, don't just take our word for it. It seems like everywhere we hear evidence-based practices, right? Or it's research-based. What does that mean? Actually, when we say research-based, anybody could put their stamp on that. We could just say, we researched it. Did it work? We don't know. However, with ThinkSRSD, we have the highest category of strong evidence. Okay, so our federal government actually uses tax dollars to research what works in education. So the SRSD studies, again, have the highest seal of approval that our nation gives. So here is that seal of approval. ThinkSRSD meets the What Works Clearinghouse standards without reservations. It is actually the only program, the only approach, it's not a program, that uses these strategies along with cognitive thinking strategies, self-regulation, and it has no reservations. So that's pretty cool. So at this point, the federal government is saying, let's scale this up. We already have the research. We know what to do. So ThinkSRSD has received over $11 million to get this into the classrooms and scale this up. So that is pretty cool. So let's see what we're going to talk about here. What does this mean? So let's think about the why. So here we have some research studies, and basically Truckenmiller and others have researched SRSD and what works. And lo and behold, the tide that you're going to learn about tonight is, look at these effect sizes. So they are very high effect sizes. So when we think of, in my district, we had some teachers that said, well, I want to use the hamburger. I want to use this graphic organizer. I want to use this one. But we know now that if we use that consistent organizer and the tide, it came up very high in evidence. So that's pretty cool. Surprising to me was sentence complexity was on the lower side, and sentence accuracy was in there as well. But these are all of those strategies that are woven into ThinkSRSD. So if you look at those effect sizes and they are nationally normed, that tells us that this works. So let's take a look at the evidence and let's take a look at some schools. How has this worked in some schools? So we have Worcester, Mass. Is anyone here from Worcester, Mass? Any of my Worcester friends? Feel free to give me a thumbs up or put something in the chat. But I have been to Worcester with Dr. Laud quite a few times to visit this magnet school. So they are the second largest urban district in New England. So all around this magnet school are project housing and things like that. And take a look at their MCAS scores starting in 2024, and they were getting higher. However, when they added ThinkSRSD, they were getting up into the 80s in their state tests. I have been to the school again many times. It is amazing. If you can ever go, I would go with you. It is amazing. So Dr. Sue O'Neill is, she led this work and she is amazing. And she talks about on the state tests that they had too many zeros on the state test. You know, they're graded 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and no 4s. After they implemented SRSD, they had no zeros and more 4s in their writing assessments. So that is pretty cool. So that's just one example. Here we have Cumberland, Rhode Island, and we have Bob Mitchell. It was a superintendent, and he is very passionate. You can find him on the SRSD website. And here is the statewide performance. So starting around 50% and getting higher and higher into the 70s. So we actually, every single school I'm going to show you has made gains that has used ThinkSRSD. So here we have Weymouth, Mass. And here we go. They were about 50%, went down, then they went up. And this is when they were using ThinkSRSD with fidelity. They were all using it. They were all passionate about it. And then look what happened. They had a new ELA lead and a new approach. So who knows what that approach was, but it was not evidence-based. And we could see this in the data. How amazing is that? So let's talk about this ThinkSRSD. What is the difference between what we did before and what it is now? So traditionally, students depend on teachers for direction. Do you see this in your classrooms? I do. I see kids up in line to get to the teacher. Every time I go into classrooms, a student asks me, how do you spell this word? What do I do next? I don't have anything to write about. In ThinkSRSD, it empowers independent writers who take themselves through the writing process. Isn't that amazing? As a classroom teacher or a special educator, your students actually learn how to take themselves through the writing process. In traditional writing approaches, it does not show effective writing. So I don't remember ever doing this, like putting effective writing up on the screen for my students to see. In SRSD, exemplars. We're going to actually look at the target. We're going to look at where we want kids to be, and we're going to teach right through exemplars. And traditionally, it's kind of like these leaves on the ground, piecemeal, not a comprehensive system that students can use. So I see teachers all the time trying to find these strategies or graphic organizers and piecemealing things together. However, ThinkSRSD is all encompassing. It's a comprehensive approach that teaches skills in parallel. In traditional approaches, we might start at the sentence level and then build up, which actually is against the evidence. Now that more and more evidence is coming out, we know that we actually have to have more language structures, and we need to explicitly and systematically teach skills in parallel to ensure that transfer. So I don't know about you, but I see, teachers say, I taught it a million times, but then they go to write and they can't write. So here's the thing, with this approach, we are creating transfer. Traditionally, claims to link to research, but actually no studies on the specific approach. And we just talked about ThinkSRSD is evidence-based. It meets the highest levels of rigor and proven to work. So I don't know about you, but when I'm in my classroom, when I'm thinking about what I would like teachers to be doing, I want the most bang for my buck for the time that we have with them. And I want to use what is the highest evidence-based. So what does this look like? It's actually pretty easy, I think. So here's the framework. That's going to be in 3 parts. We start here with the writing process, right? We've all done the writing process. However, we didn't do it with all of the features that we have in ThinkSRSD. So the writing process is actually an acronym, POWER. So when we talk to kids, I don't know if you've seen them, but they can do POWER. I'm a powerful writer. I'm a superhero. I see Debbie, you have POW in the back of your classroom there. You can point to it. So when we start off with younger kids, we typically start off with POW, and then POWER has the edit and revise. So I've actually seen students write this on their standardized tests on the side. If they have scratch paper, they are actually writing these strategies on the paper so they can take them with them. Then we give you a simple toolkit, very simple. We don't want this to be complicated. Students' lives are busy. We're busy. Teachers don't have a lot of time for all this other stuff. These are simple strategies. It's a toolkit for each part of the writing process. So we have what's called the TIDE, and you'll see pictures of this. We'll dig into it a little bit. And today we're actually just going to focus on the TIDE. There's another mnemonic here for narrative that we can learn more about, but today we'll just focus on the TIDE. We pre-read for the gist. Have you ever heard of Charlie Haynes? His book is amazing. I have it right here. But his work on the gist was added to ThinkSRSD, and the results became even higher. So the gist is basically when we read a story, when we read a text, we come up with, what was this about? Okay, and we'll dig into that a little bit. And so that is our toolkit. And then here we go. We have skill building. So we have a lot of reading specialists here, special educators, classroom teachers. This is what we do, right? We teach about sentences, vocabulary, note-taking, organization, all this stuff we are weaving into our daily writing. And this is actually what the evidence is telling us to do. Although we have workbooks and worksheets, those are there to support us. But in order to transfer, we have to do this right into the writing. Okay, so we have daily embedded skill work. Hey, look at what's going on here on the bottom of this framework. Go ahead and say it or write it in the chat. Self-regulation. So lo and behold, writing is a really complex task, isn't it? Writing for our brain is like a juggling act, right? We know about all the research. We've heard of the writing rope, some great work that's been done. And we actually have to talk to ourselves to get us through this complex task. And so this is actually the bedrock of everything that we do throughout the day. What about foundational skills? Hey, we can actually just put those right into our framework. So we have our scope and sequence, we have our, high quality core instruction. And then when we are writing, we're actually filtering that right into our writing as well. So we are encouraging that transfer. We reinforce these daily as we model writing. All right, so what does this look like? Okay, so we have these things called power cycles. So the first thing we do is we have a text. We have a high quality text. And we read the text and we plan, we organize, write, edit, revise, and we are going and putting the exemplar right in front of the students. This is what it looks like after we pre-assess our students. We then are modeling what good writing looks like. And then we take your own text. So this is kind of the pre-assessment. And then you dig into your own text and do the same thing. And here's that framework. We have the power, we have the tide here, and we have write and say more. So this is like a 1 to 2 week cycle. So this is called a power cycle. And then we score. So basically it's teach, model, and score. So this is the cycle. These things are rockets, are very cool for our younger students to score their writing. They're so fun. And then they move on to the scoring sheets. So again, this is your roadmap to writing instruction. And again, this is a cycle. So teach, model, and score. Write that down. Teach, model, score. Those are the big ideas that we're doing. All right, here is like just a zoom in on that because I know that last picture was a little small, but we have the power here. We have the tide. This is when the student writes, and then we score. Now, each week we go through a new power cycle. So sometimes if we have longer text, it might take 2 weeks. But especially with younger students, we could go through a cycle and we're teaching new features or tools in the process in, around a week. Now we do know from research that after 10 power cycles is where the magic happens. So after 10, you are going to start to see students become more and more independent. Isn't that what we want for our students? We want them to be independent learners and be able to go on their own and kind of be more independent with their lives. So 10 is that magic number. And then this is overloaded with self-regulation. This is amazing right here. We know that ThinkSRSD data, every single school that has used this with fidelity has made gains. So this is basically 24 schools, and the average is a 7% gain in every single school that has used this. So out of Rhode Island, we've got a lot of New Hampshire now, Oklahoma, Tennessee. I know I've been to do some trainings in Tennessee with Dr. Laud, and it is amazing what we are seeing. There is research. This is where ThinkSRSD started. Research studies, articles coming out, and then things were changed with teacher feedback. Let's try this. And then we would research and get the evidence. So there are just numerous studies. They're all on the website. So you can dig into those. So here's that power cycle again. And this is what it looks like with our younger students. So here's the tide, and they were writing about what plants need, and the ID is important details when they're younger. We kind of combine those two. Nutrients, sunlight, and then they check off the tide after they do their writing. Okay, so this is that power cycle. Then we have that rocket for scoring. Debbie, do you use the rockets with some of your students? Yep.
Yes, I do.
Love them. I would
Yeah,
actually use them for older students as well. Yeah. So we'll give you all of those templates too. They are all on the website, which is pretty cool. So let's just take a little poll here, a little break. And we have some of our Reading League board members ready to check out questions you have so far. So if you want to go ahead and put what do you notice and what do you wonder? So go ahead and put those in the chat. And honestly, if you want to come off a mute, you could do that too. It looks like we have 83 participants, so that's not 400. So feel free to raise your hand. Let's just take a break here and see, what do you notice? What do you wonder? What are your big ahas so far? I'll be looking in the chat. Explicit, yep. Seeing the same process repeated many times. Again, when we trained our K to 12 teachers, it was amazing. So kids would move from the elementary schools and learn the tide. They would go to the middle school and they would go to science class and they would see the same graphic organizer, the same process. Okay, yep, I can see these, friends, so I can address some of these. Kindergarten, it works beautifully. We're going to see some K examples. Is it effective one-to-one? Absolutely. Actually, this started in special education. Dr. Stephen Graham has some books out there. It started in special ed and it really just did so well that they expanded it. All right, so we've got some great questions, some wonders coming in. Students who are not able to write independently, absolutely. So we're using like that language comprehension. We're still having them talk about their writing, and then we can scale it down to what level they're at. Okay, perfect. These are some great questions coming in. Keep those coming. And we're going to go on a little bike ride. Okay, so I gave you kind of a big overview of that power cycle. And now we're going to kind of dig in a little bit more and take a little bike ride, even though it's winter here and very snowy in New Hampshire. We're going to take a little bike ride of that power cycle. So lesson 0 is actually collecting a pre-assessment. Before they have any instruction, we are going to give them a cold write. We're going to give them a pre-assessment. All right, let's take a look at what that looks like. So here we are, we have a penguin pre-assessment where the student listens to a story, a text, and then they write to a prompt. Okay, then we actually score that and set goals at that point. The next part is when we read and respond to that text, we actually get the gist. Then we're going to model this for our students. So they've already written to this text, and now we're going to bring this text out again. And we're going to say, let's read this again. Let's do a close read. And let's get a gist. Who did what, when, where, and why, and what happened. So that's how easy to get the gist. And then we read and write gist. So here's the gist here. And so the gist is powerful. It really sets the stage for incredible writing, their topic sentences, putting that text right up in front of what it's about. So this is what it might look like. We don't need any fancy posters. What I love about ThinkSRSD is I go into classrooms and I see posters all over the walls of teacher created, of student created writing. So it's just amazing. We don't have to, buy a lot of things. The kids love it. So this is another sample of the gist. And you can see that these are on clips. So the teacher can actually move the clips around and have different sentence structure. So we can have different sentence variety and just move those clips around for the gist. So this is an upper grade level. And then here are some pictures. We're going on this bike tour. So the gist provide deliberative sentence practice. Okay, so we can see these, this chart here with the lines, and they're actually getting sentence practice here. At this point, they don't need the terms like noun and verb, but they do need to separate into those boxes so they can be sure they have these key kernel parts. Here's what it looks like in K&1 for the gist. So I've seen these on the boards in classrooms, and the kids love them. So we read a story and then we talk about who or what, when, where, why, and how. So this is getting the gist statement. Again, in kindergarten, we are talking, we are igniting that language comprehension. So this is all part of writing, is talking about what we're going to write about. Here's an acknowledgement to Dr. Charlie Haynes. And he is amazing, and his book is amazing as well, From Talking to Writing. So now we're going to move our bike tour to the next step, which is power. So lesson 1, we did lesson 0, which was that pre-assessment. Lesson 1 is to introduce the core tools and color code strong responses. So what does that look like? Here we are. Here's our bike tour. We did the pre-assessment. Here we are here. So here we have the color coding with the topic, the tide, topic information, the detailed examination and ending. We have exemplars. This is what it might look like in a classroom. So you can see again on chart paper, we have written power, and here is the plan. There's 3 parts to plan. And then organize is organizing my thoughts to get that planner in, which we use the tide. And then write, edit, and revise. So that is the power acronym there. And with the younger students, again, we use POW. So plan, organize, and write. Okay, this is what an exemplar looks like. So we actually put this right up in front of students. We have exemplars that we give them the target, and this is the heartbeat of what we do. We are teaching right through the exemplars. Now, you might be thinking, I have a core program. How could I do this with having a core program? This actually layers right on your highly qualified instructional materials. So you use the text from your core program, okay? So we might be working on adverbs, we might be working on sentence variety. So we're actually looking at it like a magnifying glass. Like, oh, look at how this writer had some great sentence structure. We are actually demystifying what effective writing looks like. We're showing students from the beginning to take the mystery out of it. First, we look at the tide. Then as a class, we reveal the elements of the exemplar that make it effective. We identify the moves that the writer made so the students can use those moves in their writing too. So lots of modeling, okay? When I don't know about you, but when I go into especially upper grade levels, I don't see a lot of modeling. So this is huge. K to 12, we should be showing them great writing. So again, we're pointing out these key points in our exemplar. this is what it looks like. Okay, so students are actually scoring. They are highlighting with the tide colors. So highlighters, our kids love. We can use crayons, we can use highlighters. They love to work together in partners. They love to work in groups. They love to watch the teacher model this. So we're looking at those exemplars. And someone asked about kindergarten. Here we go. So kindergarten, we are on a field trip and we're going down the hallway to kindergarten and we are looking at the power cycle. So they've worked really hard in their phonics, their code-based instruction. And then they are looking at the whole picture. They're looking at a whole burst of ideas here. So they're actually working on sentence level skill work. They're doing very important work decoding in their phonics. And they are getting up and talking all the things that our kindergartners need. All right, we're on lesson 2, lead collaborative practices. So this is one of our favorite parts when we get together as a community. So we're modeling as the teacher, the kids are coming and they are giving all their ideas. And then we're going to send them off in groups to collaborative write. So what does that look like? Here we are on our bike tour. We're right here in the collaborative write. And let's take a look at a little video. We have just a few minutes. This is Allison, and she's one of the trainers for ThinkSRSD. And she's actually modeling Think Aloud. So this is all part of that self-regulation. She's thinking out loud. She's making the invisible visible in her brain. So let's see what this looks like. Sound okay?
Okay, boys and girls, so what we're gonna do right now is I am going to model a think aloud for you. And the purpose of me doing this is that you can see what I'm thinking in my head. Because normally thoughts, you can't see thoughts. You don't know what somebody else is thinking, right? So what
Sorry about that. I was admitting somebody.
I'm going to do is I'm going to think out loud everything that I normally think in my head as I write. And I want you to be really good listeners and to listen for things that I'm saying to myself to encourage myself, things that I say when I'm starting to get tired or distracted, and the kinds of things that I say to myself as I'm writing. So I'm going to pretend like I'm a student. Andrew, what should my name be?
Sammy or Katie.
Katie? Okay, I'll be Katie. And Katie doesn't really like writing. She thinks writing is kind of hard, but her teacher has given her some strategies to use that make writing a little bit easier, okay? Okay, so. Oh, it's time to write. I really just don't like writing, but okay, I can do this. My teacher has given me a strategy for writing, and that's POW and TIDE. So I'm gonna write that at the top of my paper. Okay. All right, I can do this. I'm just gonna start with the first thing, which is P. P stands for pull apart the prompt. Pulling apart the prompt, oh, I know, my teacher always makes me go, do what? Whenever I have to pull apart the prompt. So I'm gonna do that at the other side of my paper. Do what?
Okay, so that video is actually on the website. We're going to give you resources to many of these things that I'm showing you tonight. In this video, you can watch the whole thing, but Allison is fantastic. So what did you notice? She was actually like lifting her brain up and she was modeling that think aloud. This is really powerful. And for teachers, sometimes they feel funny about starting it, but once you do it, the kids beg for this. And she's not only modeling what's going on for self-regulation, but she's modeling the tools that her teacher taught her. So she's reminding the kids about all these tools that they have in their toolbox. Again, we are making the invisible visible. Here's a picture of collaborative practice with kindergartners. And the teacher is, think about all of the language comprehension and setting the stage for writing. All of that talking, getting ideas. Here is a first grade teacher in Worcester, and they have these superhero capes that they put on when they are writing. How engaging for our students to come in and say, I am a superhero. I'm going to do pow. Okay, so they do a great job with that. These are some cool pictures. Here are the students with the capes, and it looks like we've got some differentiation going on here. It looks like some of the kids are here with the teacher, getting some more explicit direct instruction, and then some of the kids are ready to go on their own. And then the powerful thing that we're going to do is we're going to start to release the students. We want them to be independent writers. So after we model, and our kids are doing great, we're going to start pulling back and giving them gradual release. They have tools in their toolbox. They have explicit instruction, so they are ready to begin to work more independently. And check this out, how this looks. I have seen this. I've gone again to Worcester and different schools who have been doing this for years. And the students come up and say, I love writing. It's my favorite part of the day. How many times do you hear that in your classrooms, right? Writing is hard, but when they get this explicit instruction and modeling, they then are independent and they can work with their peers. This is what it looks like in kindergarten, the collaborative writing. So look at all of the modeling the teacher has done here. And then students are ready to go on their own and start to write. This is some kindergarten writing with the tide. And then writing about trees. And then this is actually in the middle school. So again, this is K to 12. This is what it looks like in the middle school. Students are writing together. So we have that explicit instruction in scaffolds. And this is, again, that detailed examination, which you will have some of these resources. So lots of scaffolds, explicit instruction, and let's see. Well, this is just really quick, but this is just amazing to see. My kindergarten teacher. Okay. It's like I've lost my mouse for a second, but let's take a minute and write one of those notice and wonders real quick into the chat. Let's see what you're thinking and write any questions that you may have. Go ahead and write those, and I think I've got it back here. Here we go. This is bingo with the tide.
We've made up our own song to help us remember what tide means, and it's a strategy to help us write. Boys and girls, let's sing. Ready? In kindergarten we write facts and we call it tide. T-I-D-E tide. T-I-D-E tide. T-I-D-E tide. We write information, topic, important details, ending. T-I-D-E tide. T-I-D-E tide. T-I-D-E tide. We write information.
Okay, that was Worcester again. Lots of videos from Worcester. But one of my favorite pictures here is in Worcester. And I don't know if you know this, I never knew this, but in Worcester, they have a heart on every street sign. And the school, the children in the school noticed that their street sign did not have a heart. So what did they do? They were great writers and they wrote to the city officials and said, hey, we would like a heart on our street sign. And look at this picture. They came out and their writing actually did something. So how powerful is that? Worcester had students K to 12. They had more Ivy League acceptances of first generation college goers than ever before when they had SRSD from K through 12. So amazing work. We're gonna skip that one. This is
our voices are.
This video is on the website, but that's really important to get kids excited about writing and that they can actually do something through their writing. And then the last part here is scoring. So we have those, here's our little bike tour, and we have our scoring here. So we have rockets for our younger kids where they color how many features they have. And then we have those scoring charts. So these should be taught hand in hand with exemplars. So as you're looking at exemplars, you're saying, how many points would we give this writer? And then this gives direction for the scoring. So they have goal setting. So goal setting is huge in SRSD. What do I need to do? They know what to do. They're excited to do that. This is just an example of the cold write formative assessments. And who can tell me, go ahead and write it in the chat or come off of mute. Why would we do these cold write formative assessments? Why would we give kids a reading and then an assessment, a formative assessment? There are many reasons, but go ahead and write them in the chat. They are for goal setting. They are for us as teachers to know where the students are. Yep, we're seeing these come in the chat. So this is a really important part of this. We want students to set their own goals. This is what it looks like, the cold write formative assessments. And then they're going back and color coding. And here we have can do anything. Look at this. This is probably a kindergartner. Isn't that the cutest thing? I can do anything. This is what we want for our kids. And we have the next part is self-talk. So this is again that bedrock, that foundation of everything. So writing is hard. We know the cognitive processes that go on in the brain, those lower level skills, higher level skills. It's a juggling act. So we have to talk ourselves through doing something hard. So here are some examples of self-talk, positive self-talk. You got this. You can do this. Sticky note. So I go into classrooms and I see a sticky note on the desks of, for the day. What am I going to say in my brain today to get me through hard things in school? I will try my best. So here we have just pictures of the brain and how the brain changes when we actually do talk to our brains, to ourselves. So you all have homework tonight. You have to say something positive about yourself in your brain. So this is called positive self-talk. Here's some more examples. And we have student planners, self-talk planners that are again available on the website. You can make them with a little sticky note. So lots of examples there. Again, we have these weekly power cycles. I'm just going to click through some of these and kind of go over that whole cycle again. This is what it looks like zoomed in. This is what it looks like with our younger students. And then we do cycles all year. So again, a cycle is like a week to 2 weeks, and you map out your year. This is very small to see, but you might be doing 10, 12 cycles a year. And remember that magic number 10 is when the students start to become very independent. It's when the magic happens. So we are layering our narrative, writing onto here as well. And then how many of you have a core program? Probably most of us now, right? Most of us have a core program. The cool thing is this layers right onto your curriculum. So it's not a whole other program. It's actually it's an approach that you layer on best practices. So your cycles go through that. Then we embed skill lesson objectives, and self-regulation is in everything that we do. And I know I'm getting some great questions in here, so I want to leave a minute, but this is probably our last quick video from.
I primarily work with students who struggle with writing. And so I asked them at the beginning of learning POW and TIDE how they felt about writing, and almost all of them said that they didn't like it. It was too hard, they didn't know what to write. And just the other day I asked them if their feelings towards writing have changed. And every single one of them said, yes, we love to write now. They come in at the beginning of every class and they ask if they are going to get to write today. So I asked them what changed, and they said using the POW TIDE strategy just makes it so easy for them. They know exactly what to do. They know exactly what's expected of them.
Okay, so again, that's Allison and Debbie and or others. Do you have the resources that we can put in the chat? If not, I can do it as well.
I can do that. If Lucy wants to maybe go over some of the questions for you, Heidi, that.
Do that.
So I
to click in here. So again, our goal is to get 100% of our students from that 24%. And here's a QR code for the website, but we're also going to give you a bunch of resources. So let's do some questions.
And I just popped those resources in, Heidi.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. I see some great questions coming in here.
And
All right.
Heidi,
Yes.
I don't want, this is Teresa. We have Amy Thomas.
Yes.
She works with Leslie, and so she was jumping in and answering questions. I didn't want to surprise you.
Hi, Amy. I have met you in Worcester, and I see you on the videos too. So nice that you're here.
So I
Thank
wanted you to know that that's how we color coded your questions.
Perfect. So the questions, let me see if I can get to that. Do you want me to just go through them? Yep, we've got some answers. So here's a question that comes up a lot. What about students who are not able to write independently yet? This really scaffolds for them. And so if they're in 4th grade, we can actually go down to like the kindergarten goal setting, and we can start them there, and then we can accelerate their progress to get them up as high as we can. So it's wonderful. We can use rockets with kids who are struggling. Small group, I have had interventionists use this. Actually, we trained our interventionists before the classroom teachers, and they were using it, and the classroom teachers would come around and say, what are you guys doing? My kids that work with you can write. Like, what's happening here? So then we scaled it to all the teachers. Yes, there's some amazing, I can write some of these questions with answers, and we can actually send them out to everybody that's registered, if that's helpful. Is this all for nonfiction? No, we have narrative writing. It's called C-Space, but we really want to get, the TIDE can be used for some narrative writing, but not all. And then the C-Space is just another a way to do it that, you know, comes after the TIDE. So I think those were most of the questions.
We have a lot of questions about the exemplars, and Amy's come in and out and has responded to that. And there's also a Facebook page, right? That
Oh my
I know
goodness,
about.
there is actually what Debbie put in the chat. There's a link to the Facebook page. There's a link to the website, and you just have to like put your name and email in, and then you get a bunch of free resources. So, you know, today I'm not here selling anything. These resources are free online. And then if people are interested in training, extra training, you actually can get started with the resources online. There are videos out there. There's a YouTube channel that you can watch and get started with some of these strategies. And then there's an online training available and different trainings that I put in the resource page. So great questions. And I think we'll probably wrap up, but I honestly can stay on after and answer questions if people have additional questions. But just due to time, let's wrap up, Debbie, and then people can stay on if they choose to. But thank you all for coming out tonight. It was amazing to see some familiar faces and SRSD world, and it's great work.
So thank you all for attending tonight, and a very special thank you to Heidi for sharing her knowledge with us. The Reading League of New Hampshire would like to invite you to our upcoming events. The next event that we will have is the Granite State Literacy Summit, which will be held in Concord, New Hampshire, if you're a New Hampshire person, or Massachusetts or New England. We have some amazing presenters lined up. This will be on March 31st, and it was so popular that we did add an additional date of April 1st, so that is also open. And coming April 7th, we will be showing Hopeville up in the North Country. So I will also pop those events into the chat. And we would love if you are interested in getting to know more about the Reading League New Hampshire. I will put that in, and you could become a member as well to get so that you know all the events that we are hosting. And that's it.
And again, I will stay on, and I just saw Leslie Laud just signed in. And so if Leslie would like to, you don't have to, but we can continue to answer questions, but she's in the house and feel free to say hello. So thanks again for coming tonight. Feel free to stay on. It was great to be here with all of you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's Leslie. I see you. Hi, Leslie.
I see you, Heidi. Great to see you.
Yes, it's amazing to see you and all of your amazing work, all of this exciting work. We've had some awesome questions and resources that just came out with all the information on ThinkSRSD. So maybe we could put that in the chat again, Deb.
Sure.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you for your interest in writing. And there's Amy Thomas.
No, she's been like a superstar in the chat. I saw her writing things and I was like, yay. So exciting.
Did a great job, Heidi. Thanks
Thank
for.
you. I know we've met, Amy.
We have.
Yeah.
Thank you, Amy. That was incredible.
Absolutely. Happy to help.
Thanks, Heidi. Have a great night.
Thank you, Angie. Nice to see you.
You too.
Anybody still here from New Zealand? Emma has
Goodness,
put
we had
our
so many people
wonderful.
from New Zealand.
Yeah, Emma has put our face group into chat.
Good. Okay, recording, is it stopped? I think it has, right? No, recording. Recording to the